Welcome back to a story of ambition, betrayal and scientific discovery. A tale so turbulent that it's known as the Bone Wars. No, come on. It's not the Clone Wars. Our budget does not allow going into other galaxies, though to a certain extent we do somehow manage to travel in time. One could claim our story begins at least 145 million years ago, but the storyline is not that long ago. This all began in the dusty Western-style America of the late 19th century. Two paleontologists were locked in a bitter rivalry, transforming dinosaur bones into prizes, enemies into allies, and the field of paleontology, well, into something rather less than scientific. First, let's meet our contenders, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope. Marsh, the cautious, well-connected Yale professor, was the kind of man who preferred stability, though he held grudges like a true scholar. His rival, Edward Cope, came from Quaker wealth, a man of fieldwork who fancied himself something of a maverick, racing through discoveries as if he were in a league of his own. Together they would redefine paleontology and unearth extraordinary creatures, yet they shared one key flaw, an unquenchable thirst to outshine one another. As our budget did not allow true time traveling, we have allowed ourselves to create illustrations to underline this colorful story. Therefore, you will see Marsh and Cope looking something like this. I hope you understand, and should we get more followers, I will do my best to simply travel in time and have better photos taken. Well, let's move on. Listen, it all began with a mistake. An error so simple yet so monumental it would launch one of the greatest feuds in science. Young Cope, in his rush, reconstructed a new fossil, the marine reptile Elasmosaurus, with its head fixed proudly on its tail. Considered this is an 80-million-year-old skeleton that was excavated for the first time, this could be an understandable mistake. The creature would have looked like this in Cope's world. One can understand the perception of the creature, I'd think. However, Marsh, ever observant, pointed out this oversight rather publicly, leaving Cope humiliated and furious. From that moment on, Marsh was not just a critic, he was Cope's nemesis. The discovery of the century was underway. As paleontology's appeal soared, so did the stakes for Marsh and Cope. Both men funded teams to scour the American West. Wyoming, Colorado, Montana, all rich with fossils from the Jurassic period. Fossils that literally waited millions of years to be unearthed. As we all know, the Jurassic period spans from 199.6 to 145.5 million years ago, give and take a few years. Marsh focused on quality, ensuring meticulous documentation, while Cope, fueled by speed and pride, aimed to flood the scientific community with as many new names as possible. Two very different approaches. This was, in many ways, a race against time, and their tactics became increasingly unsavory. Scientific competition is one thing, but what Marsh and Cope did next was something else entirely. As the rivalry deepened, they resorted to a range of, shall we say, creative tactics. Marsh bribed Cope's fossil hunters, and at the same time, Cope paid diggers to sneak fossils out of Marsh's sites. They even destroyed fossils on occasion. If they couldn't claim them, neither should the other one. What a ridiculous behavior, ladies and gentlemen. The field of paleontology was beginning to look more like the Wild West. Yet for all their faults, and they were plentiful, Marsh and Cope discovered some of the most remarkable fossils in paleontology. Marsh's methodical approach brought us creatures like Triceratops and Stegosaurus, while Cope's daring spirit unearthed Coelophysis and Diplodocus. These names still inspire wonder, yet they were often born in the heat of competition rather than scientific curiosity. Marsh, a supporter of Darwin's theories, saw fossils as pieces of an evolutionary puzzle. Quite differently thinking was Cope. he held firm to Lamarckian ideals. Lamarck, as you surely know already, was a French naturalist who believed that organisms could change during their lifetime by adapting to their environment. Like a giraffe's neck, stretching over time, could be passed down to their offspring. This idea, known as Lamarckian inheritance, was one of the earliest theories of evolution. The theory was, of course, later replaced by Darwin's theory. One might call it survival of the fittest. Yes, pun intended, young fellow. Oddly enough, despite their disputes, both men filled museum halls and public imagination alike with the visions of these prehistoric giants. By the 1880s, the Bone Wars were infamous. Newspapers chronicled the feud, making a public spectacle of their missteps. Marsh and Cope, once scientists of renown, became almost caricatures of themselves. And while they continued to uncover fossils, their fortunes dwindled. With every dollar spent on digs, their financial security crumbled. By the 1890s, Cope had fallen deeply into debt, while Marsh barely held on with the help of Yale. The Bone Wars were reaching their inevitable conclusion, two giants toppling under the weight of their rivalry. By the time Cope passed away in 1897, he left behind a cryptic final act, donating his body to science with instructions to measure his brain as a final assertion of superiority over Marsh. Marsh would follow him 2 years later, leaving a legacy marked as much by rivalry as by discovery. In their last years, these men had little left but their fossils, a treasure trove of bones that would outlast them, filling museums across the world. Cope died aged 57, Marsh aged 67. I got a fun fact here. The Diplodocus would have outlived them. It was expected to live for 70 to 80 years. Well, the Bone Wars may have ended, but their legacy remains. Despite the chaos, they sparked public fascination with dinosaurs and laid the foundations for modern paleontology. Yet we're left with a lasting question: did their personal ambitions drive science forward or hold it back? Today we remember Marsh and Cope not just for the fossils they unearthed, but as a testament to human ambition, both its brilliance and its follies. This was the story of the Bone Wars, a tale where rivalry, ambition and discovery intertwined to shape a field and capture our imaginations. Thank you for watching, and remember, history has a curious way of reminding us that in every achievement lies a lesson. I hope this story was inspiring and entertaining, though we had scientists that were, bad to the bone. You got that? Bad to the bone? Bad to the bone? Well, never mind. I hope you will like, share and do subscribe to our channel, as we expect to provide you with loads of new stories from the old days. Until next time, take care.